Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. So, today for your pleasure, I'm playing in two different battles the Rooikat 105. This is a new British premium, battle rating 8.7 tank destroyer, aka wheeled light tank, whatever you wanna call it. As you can see, it has the ability to scout, so for me personally, this counts as a light tank, as well as it can be hull broken. Not that easily, as I recall on the CV90 105 in the beginning of the patch, but still, it can be done. Anyways, so the thing is, I think that this is probably the best British tank, in particular in the premium region, that the British have to offer. But I think it's also one of the most expensive ones, and I still don't think that it's really worth it. Now, I'm not saying that the tank is useless or bad. In fact, it is really good, especially in special but rather rare circumstances. It might be the best tank in the game. But 99.99% of the time, you won't get into those circumstances where you can use its power, which is the top speed, 120 kilometers per hour. And I think that comes down to one thing, that it is a wheeled tank. Now, let me things get straight here. I have a very rough look at this tank. I have a harsher critic on this than on normal tanks that you just could get and play by playing the game, aka for free. This is an expensive premium. It costs you what, 50, $60? Euros, whatever? That is a lot of money. Do you really get the value out of it? And I think it's so difficult because, yeah, this is in fact the best that the British get access to, but it's still not really competitive at its battle rating. And I just want to go into one scene that should you provide you with proof of what I mean. In particular, when you compare this to the Radkampfwagen 90, which is just simply a better tank, it should become clear. And it is here this snowy slope, this ridgeline. This is what I'm talking about. I'm very, very slow here. 1-2 kilometers per hour on this not so drastic slope. A normal tank with the same horsepower to ton ratio would get up there no problem. Now, don't get me wrong here. I know that this is a snowy, icy slope, but there are two things. First of all, tanks don't have that problem. Point number one. Point number two. It doesn't feel like a loss of traction. The wheels don't spin. It feels like the powertrain is losing all its torque, its power, and that is what makes it so frustrating. Because then, if you twist the wheels to go a bit more to the side, then suddenly you accelerate. But if it would be really a snowy, icy slope, that shouldn't be the case. Don't get me wrong. I also have a truck driving license, and I know that, trucks don't really fare very well in snow. And they also have lots of wheels, and, they are as heavy or heavier or lighter, and I know a lot about our ground pressure. But this doesn't feel realistic. In another scenario, I think that, for example, on sandy maps, on flat terrain, the tank is also disturbingly slow. And it's not the only wheeled tank like this. But here comes the comparison. The Radkampfwagen 90 is significantly faster. But it has roughly the same weight. It has but a very much stronger engine. And that is the thing. It has the same amount of wheels. It has probably a very similar ground pressure. But it just simply has more power. More power doesn't mean you go faster if you don't have traction. That is just a physical thing. Unless you dig so deep with the wheels that then you have contact with the rock bottom, right? But that aside, that's the thing. And just look at this road. This is where the tank is really fast. But again, you can't play its trump card of 120 kilometers per hour top speed. And while it is fairly stable thanks to the 8 wheels compared to 4 wheels on some other tanks like the Orwell 74 HVG as an example, a lot of the maps just don't provide you with roads that actually lead you into favorable positions. So this is one very exceptional battle. And as you could see at very high speeds, the stabilizer doesn't really work that well. So you have to slow down. And that brings me to point number 2. Because normally slowing down a tank is just pressing the S key. And sometimes he drives or drifts for a very short moment, but mostly it is right at your will. Wheeled tanks don't do this. Their wheels completely lock up and you drift whatever you do steering wise with A and D key. It doesn't really matter. The tank drifts at its own will. And even if you hard turn to the right and then you and then you hit the S key, it then behaves like the wheels are completely pointing forward. And then it drifts slightly to the left anyway. So this is just where the tank has the issues. The greatest advantage on paper is the mobility. The greatest weakness is the mobility. I say this because, its armor isn't very good. It's rather thin. It is even weaker than the Radkampfwagen 90. And by the way, if you want to have the direct comparison between the two of them, watch my Radkampf 90 tank review where we have the stats side by side and you kind of see at which kind of disadvantage this tank is in comparison to the Radkampfwagen 90, but also compared to the XM1, which is a representative of the rather faster main battle tanks at around this battle rating bracket that you can and will meet on a regular basis. And I'm saying this because, again, you pay a lot of money for this tank, and you're expected to play it not just for a few dozens, but in fact hundreds of battles to earn the civil lines, to earn the RP, and to get through the tech tree, and also, spading or training your crews. The battle that you're seeing in the background, again, is very situational. It is a very good situation where I'm patient, I'm lucky that nobody rushes me, I'm lucky that nobody sees me, and yes, the tank has the advantage of thermal imaging, which is a big plus. But first of all, I'm not really playing night battles anyway, so for me personally, that's not an issue. And on daylight conditions, thermal imaging is also giving you an advantage. I'm not gonna lie, if you know how to use it, if you switch between normal view and thermal imaging, you can spot tanks literally everywhere at long distances, between bushes, etc. It is a nice thing, but the majority of other tanks at around this battle rating have it as well. In particular, the premiums, Leopard, A1A1, L44, and also the XM1, just to name here two of the most common one. Let's talk about the gun. And actually, the gun handling is pretty good. 10 degrees of gun depression, 20 degrees of gun elevation, 6.7 second reload, which is fairly standard, 40 degrees per second turret traverse. That is really great. And I think it's 5 degrees per second gun elevation speed, which is not the best, and if you fall out of the correction zone of the stabilizer, then it really feels slow, and especially if you're working ridge lines, etc. But anyways, so the surprising thing is a tank with roughly 20 horsepower per ton ratio, you know roughly how it behaves, because many tanks have roughly this horsepower to ton ratio. Some are slower, some are faster, some have more ground pressure, others less, but it's roughly in the same ballpark. With those wheeled tanks, as I stated so often by now, it is weird. They are quick as all hell on a road, on our hard terrain, but they are also more slower on soft terrain, in mud, and especially on ridge lines, on slopes, etc. They are so goddamn slow, so frustratingly slow, and not very often do actually the zone of the objective and how the map is laid out, especially from spawn, favor light tanks or wheeled tanks in general. So you really have to work with the minimap. Where are the roads, and do they lead you to a position where you can make advantage of your scouting, of artillery strike, helping allies to be repaired. Again, this tank has the feature smoke and also then fire. Now, I haven't talked about the ammunition yet, and this is then again a little bit like with the Shotkarl Dalet, because you have Hesh, 105mm hash. You have a 105mm heat with 400mm of penetration. And then as APFSDS, it is the DM23. It costs you 600 silver lines per shot, penetrates 337mm of penetration. That is, by the way, the stock round of the Radkampfwagen 90. And it has also positive normalization, penetrates 195mm at 60 degrees angles of attack. So there you have it. That is more or less a full description of this tank. It is good if you are a fan of real tanks and you know how to overcome those issues, more or less if you're an experienced player. Yes, it's a decent pick. And to be honest, I don't really think that the British tech tree at the higher battle ratings is at the moment that desirable, with more and more faster main battle tanks, more and more premiums being thrown in that give you a constant power and feature creep. It is a thing. So I'm not quite sure how viable this tank will be in the upcoming patches. At the moment, I could make it work, I could play it, I could get kills, win matches, but after playing the Radkampfwagen 90, it just felt so much significantly slower. It is incredible. And that is the difference between a 19.9 horsepower per ton ratio and a 26.9 horsepower per ton ratio. This is not a joke. This is a huge difference, because the Radkampfwagen is effectively better accelerating on hard terrain, on roads, and while you have in theory 20% higher top speed, you are never going to reach it. You will never be able to make use of it or generate a advantage over a Radkampfwagen 90, and especially on anything other than hard terrain, you are nothing but gun food for the main battle tanks. Not because you can't kill them, but because they're just easier to control. And that is everything that you need to know about this tank. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that you might not really like this. This was not ranting, this was merely explaining my experience with the tank combined with the experience from playing other tanks, and just singularly warning you that you shouldn't play the top speed card, because very often it's a one-trick pony. It doesn't really generate you an actual advantage, and this tank is actually pretty slow. That's how it plays. That's its weakness. It looks fast. Other tanks are as fast or faster, and well, that is the thing that holds it back. And again, this is a premium tank that you are expected to play for dozens, if not hundreds of games, over and over and over and over again. And by the way, it doesn't even have a clear lineup to play with. For example, the Rooikat Mark 1D, which was a bit fresher experience in my opinion at lower battle rating, has also the same reload, a bit less penetration, but not does it really matter. And it is also, I guess, 2 tons lighter. So you feel that. You feel that, by the way. And so I think that the tech tree version is more worth of a talisman, which is better and which plays better. So that is my final verdict. Really think about getting another tank. Drive it excessively in the test drive and see if you like that. If you like that, the rest of the tank is fine, even good, but it's really the mobility that kills it. And that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video anyways, and give the video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.